Hello, and welcome to another Rant Rave review. Today we shall be raving about 5 kid-lit classics, or classic kid-lit. These are books that pretty much everyone's heard of, but a lot of people either haven't read or only read them when they were kids. And I will tell you, they all bear repeating or rereading, even if you're a grown-up. They're so good. Sometimes you just want a nice little book, and these are them. So, the first one needs no introduction. I think literally everyone on the planet has heard of this. Alice in Wonderland. It is such a good book. If you've never read it, it's extremely weird and just not serious. Like, it is not a serious story, nor is it trying to be. It's all based on nonsense and logic, like playing with logic or taking something to its logical conclusion or wordplay. There's lots of poems, there's lots of, you can't tell now because no one's ever heard of the originals, but there's a lot of parodies of old poems. There's one part, one of my favorite parts, is when she's being tried for stealing the king's tarts, or queen's tarts, and one of the lawyers is giving all these dates that things happened, and all the jurors are writing down the dates, and then at the end of them, they add up all the dates, and they get the sum, and there's change left over. Like, this is the kind of book that this is. It's so silly. And I think I've been obsessed with it since I was a child. I didn't read it until I think middle school, but when I was a kid, a little kid, I loved the Disney cartoon, the one that was from the 1950s. There was one day, I swear I watched it 5 times. I just kept rewinding the tape and rewatching it. Yeah. So, and if you've read my book, Miscast Spells, you can tell. Like, white rabbits and girls with aprons and nonsense and tea. I will tell you for free that Mr. Charles in my book is named that because of Charles Ludwig Dodgson, and he's telling a little girl story. Beginning of the book, yeah. So, give this a read. It is quite adorable. It is not serious. I could rant all day long about the live-action Alice in Wonderland movie that they made, but I won't. Let's just say it should not be serious. There is no chosen one. Get out of here with that. Nonsense. We only have nonsense in this house. Okay, there's that. Another great book is Heidi. This one I feel like everyone's heard of, but no one has read. So Heidi, again, if you don't know, it's a story where there is this little girl whose parents are dead, and she basically is stuck, gets like sent to her grandfather who lives high up in the mountains. He's kind of semi-secluded himself. Something bad happened, and he's just like, I don't talk to people anymore. And he's all, grumpy and crotchety, and she goes, but she loves living in the mountains, but then eventually she has to go to the city, and she doesn't like it, and all kinds of stuff. And I would describe this as reading a Miyazaki movie or a Ghibli movie. It is like that. Like, not only the beautiful, just gentleness of it, but literally the way the author describes the characters moving. You can picture a Miyazaki character, like, doing that. And again, I feel like Miyazaki was probably influenced by this. Heidi's very popular in Japan. Very popular. So, yeah. Also, if you know about Mori aesthetic, or forest fashion, or cottagecore, it's like if you took all that and made it into a book. So, that's my recommendation. I would describe it's a little touch and go there. It's a little touch and go. There was one part where I was like, so help me, this character better not die. But it's okay. It's okay. Read it. It's okay. It's like a hug-shaped book. It is so cute and good, and it's just nice. Another book, which is still nice, but it's very, very sad, is Little Princess. Little Princess is a story about, and again, this one I did read. I had read to me as a kid, and then I read it as a kid, and then I reread it as an adult, and I wept openly. This is about Sarah Crew. She is the daughter of this very rich, I guess merchant, technically speaking. She's sent to a boarding school while he goes to India to do stuff. And she's basically very, very rich and, doted on and has pretty dresses and all this stuff. And while she is rich, the headmistress of the school, treats her like a little princess. But then her fortunes change. And suddenly the headmistress is like, I don't care about you. You're going to live in the attic. You're not going to get any new clothes. Her clothes are like too small for her. She has to, clean and eat, crusts of bread. And she's always hungry. And But despite this, she still tries to be a good person. There's like another character, there's another maid she befriends, and there's this kind of awkward girl that she befriends who's still in the school, and it's just very sweet and very formative in my brain. I don't know, the whole little girl living in an attic and a maid. I don't know, I'm just like, yes, this is my childhood, even though it wasn't, I didn't have to live in an attic, but for some reason that, like, imagery just stuck in my brain. So yeah, it's really good. You will cry. Yeah, but the ending is okay. The ending is okay. It's good. It's not like a bad ending. No dogs die or anything. Yeah. So there's that one. Let's see, what else? Boop, boop, boop. Okay, the next one's weird. The next one I'm going to describe not what this book is about, but what it feels like it's about. Okay, it feels like it is about this kid who is the child of fire mages. It's an epic fantasy, by the way. This kid is the child of fire mages, and his father is murdered by a warlord. And he is rescued by this band of forest elves, and he's taken care of by them. There's also a ninja who was enslaved but managed to escape, and he helps care for this fire mage child. There's a wise man who teaches the legends of old. And at one point, the child gets kidnapped by these gibbering goblins, and they have to save him with the help of this dragon. And you're like, what is this book? What is this classic book that no one's ever heard of? This is the Jungle Book! Oh, yeah! I know, it doesn't sound like it's an epic fantasy, but that is how it feels. Like, if you read it, the narration, the way Kipling describes things, it sounds like an epic fantasy. I want someone to make it into a fantasy, because it, like, that's how it reads. Bagheera was, like, born in captivity and escaped his chains, and Baloo tells the stories of old and the jungle law, and all of that. It's in here. Also, honorable mentions, short stories included in the Jungle Book. Rikki Tikki Tavi, which is about a hobbit who gets rescued by this family and has to fight off 2 demons. And The White Seal, which is about a albino chosen one who has to save his people from being culled by orcs by going and seeking ancient gods to find a safe haven. Yes, technically they're about a mongoose and a seal, but that's the way they read. I know I sound insane, but for real. Like, if you're like, man, I really wish that there was some epic fantasy in my life, yeah, just pretend they're not animals, because it might as well not be. Okay, that tangent. I haven't read the second Jungle Book, but I need to. I'm sure it's as good as the first, hopefully. All right, so that epic fantasy. Okay, so finally, the last one I'm going to mention is, well, technically it's 2, but it's basically 1. Winnie-the-Pooh and House of Pooh Corner. If you have only read these as a child, please reread them. They are so cute. They are so good. They are very hug-shaped as well. And they're like, I don't even know. They're just delightful. Delightful is the word I would use for these books. They're so sweet and cute, and the illustrations are adorable, and the wordplay is funny. And, like, there's certain things where I feel like A.A. Milne was just flipping off his editor. I know, that sounds weird. I'm like, that's how you describe it? Yeah, okay. So, for example, like, you got your interrobangs and, like, asterisks, and you got cute little, like, bouncing words. And then my favorite exchange ever, and I desperately want to do this in a book, because it is exactly the way you can tell what's being said. This part, it's like dialogue, and he says, oh, I can't read backwards. He's like, we might go in your umbrella, said Pooh. We might go in your umbrella, said Pooh. We might go in your umbrella, said Pooh. Oh, like, that's what's happening. And I'm like, how did you get away with publishing this? I feel like if you tried to do this nowadays, people would lynch you. They're like, you can't do that. They'd wiggle their mustaches that they have in the modern day. But yeah, it's so cute and inventive and playful. And then you read the last chapter of House of Pooh Corner and you weep openly, because that's when Christopher Robin goes to school and it's like growing up, and you're like, ugh. I have an aunt who teaches kindergarten, and she reads these to her children, except she never reads the last chapter. She waits till they go to take their naps, and then she reads it and she cries. She's just like, I can't do this. So, yeah. It's so good. And again, like, I feel it's okay, especially in the current year and these trying times. Like, do yourself a favor and just read a nice, sweet book that is about childhood and happiness and friendship. Because not every book needs to have some deep meaning and such. Sometimes you're just like, no, kindness is important and you should be nice to people. And here's like some silly wordplay or some funny punctuation. So yeah, just do yourself a favor. Read these. They're classics for a reason. They're so beautiful and good and delightful. So that's my classic kidlit rant rave review. At some point, I will do a adult kidlit. No, I will do an adult classic rant rave review. So yes, see you next time. Ta-ta.